And joining us now is Sir Peter Westmacott, former British ambassador to the United States and author of They Call It Diplomacy, 40 years of representing Britain abroad. Sir Peter is joining us today. Thank you so much. I think from Turkey, a country you know so well because you were ambassador there as well as in France, other top posts for the UK, but you also served in Iran. So I want to start by asking you about this election and the fact that only a hardliner candidate can possibly win the presidency. Do you think that that will doom Iran possibly in these Vienna talks agreeing to the terms and re-entering, getting back into compliance with the Iran deal so that the U.S. can then rejoin?
Well, Andrea, thanks for having me on. It's wonderful to see you again.
You too.
There's been a little bit of me that has said the last few presidential elections in Iran have ended up with a non-regime candidate winning because a little bit of tactical voting, plus the electorate saying, you know what, we don't really want just to have somebody foisted on us. We want to have the right to choose our own president. So whether it was Ahmadinejad or Rouhani or Khatami, in recent years, the people, oddly enough, have chosen somebody who wasn't the supreme leader. Quite right, your correspondent's quite right. It looks as though it's stitched up, and as Iranians like to say, we know the result, we're just waiting for the elections. So it will be almost certainly Raisi. It could be Rezai, who is a former Revolutionary Guard commander, also a hardliner, and the one pragmatist who was on the slate, who was allowed to be a candidate, to a senior official from the central bank, Hamadi, looks like he's not going to get very far. So if we assume that is correct and there'll be a low turnout showing apathy about the pre-fixed list that is being offered to the Iranian people, I think it means that we're going to see a pretty inflexible, pretty hardline president taking office who will be following pretty much the instincts of the Supreme Leader Khamenei. And that looks like it's not a very flexible negotiating approach to the discussions that are continuing in Vienna on the whole issue of whether we can put back together the nuclear deal, which was struck in July of 2015 and which President Trump walked away from in 2018. So I think not very optimistic. And it's clear, I think there's plenty of people in power in Iran who think it's in their interest to keep the country under firm control, not to have an opening up with Western countries, particularly with the United States of America, because guess what? Then you haven't got anybody to blame for your own incompetence and corruption and the failings of the current government towards the Iranian people. And I think that seems to be the instinct that they are following at the moment. And it doesn't sound like it's a very good omen for getting an agreement off the ground with the JCPOA, in other words, getting the nuclear deal back in business. On the other hand, you know, if anyone's going to do it, maybe it is a hardliner. It took a Nixon to go to China, and it could just be that if the regime has decided it wants some sort of a deal, that it's best to do it with one of their own in charge.
And you're in Turkey, so I want to ask you about Erdogan, because President Erdogan and Joe Biden, as vice president, had a very dicey relationship. But they did talk very positively, constructively, they both said, about Turkey getting help from the U.S., financial help, to remain in Kabul with troops after NATO and the U.S. leave, which is imminent, and trying to protect the Kabul airport, which means protecting the Afghanistan government from the Taliban.
It was striking before President Biden took power that the state-influenced media in Turkey were busy telling Turks that Joe Biden didn't like Turkey, and that it was all going to be very difficult and so on. That was never the case. President Biden knows a lot about Turkey, and I know that from having talked to him about it. And he believes that Turkey is a very important country in a very delicate part of the world. But he has had some issues with some of the ways in which President Erdogan has ruled for the last almost 20 years. And so this was always going to be rather an important meeting. And it was also noteworthy that one of the last phone calls of congratulation that President Biden returned was that from President Erdogan. So I think it was likely that this meeting was going to be seeing President Erdogan on best behavior. It looks like he hasn't changed his position on some of the difficult issues like the S-400s, which he has bought from Russia as part of his ground-to-air missile defense system. But he was also very positive about NATO, and he was also positive about making a fresh start to relations with the United States. So I think not bad considering. I'm sure President Biden did not pull his punches. He is a man who is worried about the way in which Turkey has gone backwards on some issues of human rights and rule of law. So he will have said that too.
And we're also hoping, I was there 2 weeks ago, and we're hoping that they will keep that humanitarian aid corridor from Turkey to Syria. We have to go leave it there, but the book is wonderful. Thank you, Sir Peter Westmacott, for joining us. And the book is, they call it Diplomacy, 40 Years of Representing Britain Abroad.